what we have here is a failure to communicate. Yeah, sorry about the hiatus there for a little bit. Welcome to 2021. This is the Between Two Wheels podcast. I am your host, Tyler Janke. Welcome, and let's settle in. Today's show, we're going to do a year in review, awards show for 2020. A look back. It was a year of mayhem. It was also a year of COVID and some amazing racing. I just hope that we get that going next year. No, not the COVID, the amazing racing. It's Tuesday, January 5, 2021, and this is the Between Two Wheels podcast. Welcome, everybody. Year of mayhem. I don't know what else to say about it. COVID ripped us apart. Sorry about some of the episodes here. Been a little lagging due to the COVID, which I had. It's been just a month of kind of just staggered illness of phlegm in the throat, so it's been a little bit difficult to talk. We'll try to slog through this. We'll try to get through it. Drink plenty of coffee along the way, at least to push down the throat and see how we do. But I thought we'd do a year review and then do some little bit of an awards of different events, different kind of, what are the categories? Best rider, best GC rider, classics, Domestique of the year, Domestiques of note, biggest disappointments, achievers of the year, overachiever, under, U23 rider of the year, best Grand Tour, best one-day race, teams of the year, biggest classics team, biggest under and overachiever team of the year, biggest surprise, tactical wins, most impactful events, biggest tactical blunder, or we might like to call that the movie star award. And then we'll get into, we'll talk about all those things. Welcome. So what do we have here? Well, let's just start first. Tour Down Under happens. And, as it always does every year, except for 2021, we're not going to have it there. You're going to probably see a bunch of different schedule changes. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe we don't have the racing take off at all. But this is where we usually see incredible heat. We also see Richie Porte usually winning on Wollonga Hill. So we should have known things were going to be a little odd when, in fact, he was allowed a break to go up the road and stay away for the win on Wollonga Hill. He did come in second, and he did end up winning the GC. So we should have thought, things are just going to be a little bit different this year. Sam Bennett also starts the year off with a win down there. And he had a great season as well. So we've had that. We had the JCO Sun Tour down under there, Sun Tour, I think it was. And then we moved to Argentina for the Tour of San Juan. And here we got another insight of some oddness. Evenepoel does well climbing. He does well in the time trial. As a matter of fact, he wins an individual time trial over Philippe Ganna. Really? Yeah, Ganna later on gets a win in the Giro, gets the World Championships. We'll talk about those. Brandon McNulty showed some promise there with a fourth on GC. Philippe Ganna managed a second in the individual time trial. Overall GC, climbing with the little guys on stage 5. And Gaviria won the final stage, signaling some things for him to come in 2020 for sprinters. And that's pretty normal. Then we went to Spain, Valencia, Desert, Oman, Tour of Colombia. Hey, that's where EF Education showed they had some talent with Martin Cachedo and Higuita. It was also showed that Egan Bernal was maybe not the dominant rider of the years past, at least yet at that point in the season. In February 22, the UAE Tour started amid growing coronavirus concerns. The tour was eventually canceled with only 5 stages completed. But the winners all showed what 2020 had to offer. You had Ackerman winning stage 1. I think he won the last stage of the Vuelta there. Caleb winning stage 2, Adam Yates in stage 3, Dylan Groenewegen, stage 4, Tadej Pogačar of stage 5. Gaviria and others were held in a hotel. Remember, they were locked in pending quarantine and COVID-19 testing and results. This locking of people in place against their will would be and continues to be something people will get used to, embrace, and encourage. Well done, Nazis. Oh, did I did I say it out loud? Sorry, Paul. I'm not accusing you of anything, but we had a disagreement here. Racing didn't stop, however, until we got through Paris-Nice. Remember, Max Schachmann, Bora ended up coming out the top there. Several teams were skeptical; others dropped out. You had Bardet was saying this is dangerous, shouldn't be here. But those that stayed on board showed well. Nairo, he came good on the final stage, accentuating his early season climbing and possibly being back to the Nairo of old. Remember, he won up La Provence stage Mont Ventoux earlier in the year, which was pretty fascinating to see. I mean, that one also had Cavagna going downhill well. Remember him from the Tour of California? I did a little comparison video of that. We had a COVID break. here's the year where things got messed up. We went into hiding, racing stopped, and some riding was even outlawed. See Gilbert in his arrest. The Giro was postponed. The Tour was pushed back, and it was decided the cycling season would give it a go in late August, cramming all the racing and the best it could do until COVID shut everything down. Tour, Giro, Worlds, Vuelta all ran consecutively with overlap with the Giro and the Vuelta. That's right, World Championships thrown in there in the week after the Tour de France. We also had a little bit of commentary of how we thought that would do. I did a little breakdown of that. It should be a little interesting. We also get the classics, except for Paris-Roubaix and a few others thrown in, most notably Liege Bastogne Liege. Yes, Liege was very interesting because we had an odd winner. We had a little disturbance, and we had just the top of the top coming in for that race. We had Tour de France. Remember, started rain around Nice. Stage 1 through 3 was there. UAE did an uninspected victory with Alexander Kristoff. I'm not going to go through every result here, but we will start in a few of the rain. Remember, it caused a unionization of the peloton. They call in a truce, instant karma to Superman Lopez going over the top of the Col d'Ise. Where they tried to slow everything down, and he decided to just run straight through into a stop sign, fence post, something there. Stage 3, we saw Julian Alla Philippe ignite the 2020 Tour de France like he did in 2019, the barn-burning attack up the Col d'Ise. So that wasn't the Col d'Ise that Superman went into with Adam Yates until. And then we saw the first that I thought it was at the time that it was Nicholas Roche, but it was Mark Hershey of the Sunweb team. He connected, and he narrowly missed a victory, which we were going to then see quite often in this Tour de France. Stage 5, we got a Wout sprint win, a climber with a finishing punch. Pretty amazing. Lutsenko, Wout, Peter Nans, and then Pogacar narrowly got another win over Hershey on stage 9. This also got ROglic into the yellow, displacing Adam Yates. That's right. Remember, Adam Yates was in the yellow to begin with for the GC lead. Stage 10, we had Bennett. Stage 11, Ewing. Then Mark Hershey finally gets his win on stage 12. We had Martinez, ROglic. Remember, so then we had that super steep climb, and all along you had Dumoulin doing work, you had Sepp Kuss doing work, you had Wout Poels doing work, you had everybody on Jumbo hammering it down. What other team do you remember taking control? No, you don't. You did see Nelson Paulus taking the reins and trying to get up the road. You saw him with Max Schachmann that one time. Let's do it for California was the comment between the two of them. You had Carapaz once Egan Bernal hurt his knee. I think he had knee issues. I don't think he wrecked for that. And then you saw him ignite and blow out the back. Well, then you had Carapaz and Kwiatkowski going up the road. They destroyed everybody that day for a 1-2 win, getting Kwiatkowski the win. Pretty amazing there. You had that super steep climb. I'm trying to remember which stage that was, but that's where Sepp Kuss led everyone up over the top. It looks like he was dropping everybody when Lopez makes an attack. But you had Lopez, you had then ROglic getting distance over Pogacar, and then Sepp coming in there and Richie Porte, and looked like it was all set up for ROglic going into stage 20 time trial up the Planche de Belfi. Who would have expected an amazing turnaround? And we had, at that point, a very close finish with 59 seconds. It was a swap of about 50 seconds. It was a destruction of ROglic in that time trial that we have not seen with a good time trialer. We're not talking, that it's Rasmussen back in the 04 or whatever it was where he couldn't stay upright on his bike and he's a little climber that doesn't have a time trial. This is ROglic. This guy second in World Championships a few years ago to Dumoulin. Once again, Dumoulin did a great time trial himself, but Pogacar just destroyed everybody, gets the win. Kind of devastating when you think about it to Roglic. And so the idea there is, well, how's he gonna handle this? We're gonna go into hiding for the rest of the year. Well, that was soon to see. We had the Worlds about a week later. Remember, it was going to be in Switzerland. They moved it to Imola in Italy due to the COVID issue, and they kind of had it around a racetrack and some punchy climbs. If you saw our intro, you saw the great James Bond-like look, the helicopter next to them up on the precipice there. In the time trial, Filippo Ganna destroys everybody. In the women's, Chloe Dagert was headed to win that race. I believe she was pretty much out in front easily. At the turnaround, coming back in, though, she takes a bad right-hand turn, hits a guardrail, goes over the top, lacerates her leg. She's out. Anna van der Breggen ends up winning the women's time trial. She repeats that in the road race with a solo effort there. The men, Tadej Pogačar, looks like he's going to do a little work for ROglic for Slovenia. He goes up the road with 2 laps to go. The last lap, though, you got Alla, Philippe, Wout, Poels, Fuglsang, ROglic. They end up making a connection, getting up the road, but they can't catch Alla, Philippe. He ends up staying away. There's a little controversy. Hey, why isn't ROglic doing more work for Wout Poels, who ends up second place with this easy sprint win of the field? ROglic, I believe, was 6th place himself. Mark Hirschi was also in that group. Great look. I did a breakdown of the Tour de France, and I'll get to this in a little bit, but the Tour de France, the Giro, the Vuelta, and Worlds, and the different riders that were tops, top 15, and all of those. It's a pretty interesting little breakdown to look at, and you see some amazement of one rider, 2 riders that kind of surprised me of how well they were able to, when they actually did the overlapping. Hardly anybody did the Giro and anything else, or did well in anything else. You had riders obviously doing well in the Tour, doing well in the Vuelta, and doing well at Worlds. So interesting little breakdown of those that did the Worlds and that were in the Tour de France just the week before. As you had Alla, Philippe winning. He did the Tour de France, but he didn't necessarily do great. Wout, he did a lot of work in the Tour de France. Wasn't in the top 15. Hirschi was 3rd. He was in the Tour de France once again, but in one stage. Kwiatkowski, Fuglsang did not. He did the Giro. ROglic, Matthews. He wasn't allowed to do the Tour, I think. Valverde, Schachmann, Caruso. Anyway, all the way down. Guillaume Martin at 13th. So we had World Championships. Then boom, we go into the Giro. Giro starts out, and we're going up that Mount Etna. People are already igniting. It's the year for G. Thomas. You're looking for him because he had sat out after the Dauphiné. Remember, we had those races coming back after COVID. You had the quick succession of a bunch of them. You had Lombardia. You had, which, by the way, Strada Bianca, Milan-San Remo. We'll get to these. Milan-San Remo, Lombardia. You had the Piedmont race, I think that's what it was, where Bennett wins and then has a clash with Fuglsang over there in Lombardia. You had the Giro, though, was Thomas. He didn't do so well in the lead up and in the Dauphiné, and you're like, oh, didn't make the Tour team. That was a little controversial, or was it? He gets in, and then Ineos just flops in the Tour. But then you get him in the Giro, and he's expected to be the guy. Doesn't have a good ride, ends up dropping out. You have guys, the whole jumbo team basically forfeits with the COVID infection, and Filippo Ganna starts to take hold. You get a Giro, massive amounts of wins from Ineos in the Giro, likes I haven't seen since the days of when you had a sprinter and a good GC rider. Then we had the overlapping with that, obviously a phenomenal finish to that race that was closer than the Tour just had recently been, which was inside 50 or around 58, 59 seconds or so. And then the Giro was somewhere around 30 seconds. You had a resurgence of Ineos. You had Theo Gegenhardt, you had Jai Hindley for Sunweb, you had Kelderman for Sunweb, you had Rohan Dennis pulling out one of the best domestique rides of the year, at least in a single race. And you had Jal Almeida. I mean, some phenomenal interest. Now, was this field maybe diluted a little bit because not everyone was there? Possibly. But it gave us some excitement because you come down to the final stage and you have Jai Hindley ahead in the pink jersey, ahead of Theo Gegenhardt. But Gegenhardt ends up winning that. Switch over to the Vuelta, which is already underway. It's reduced to 18 stages from 21. And right away, you start seeing ROglic picking off the time. And he and Sepp Kuss. And you're like, okay, are they going to be able to hold this out? He gets wins. You've got EF Education getting wins in the Vuelta, 3 of them. They end up with 3rd place over with Hugh Carthy as well, which is an impressive slot. Going into the last stage, stage 17, which was up to a mountaintop finish, brutal. Everything gets destroyed, and you're left with a great breakdown of time between Carapaz and ROglic. And is ROglic going to end up forfeiting up? End up being the Vuelta was the closest race of the season. Okay, let's get to some categories. Then we'll kind of break down some of these other races. And by the way, there's more races than all those. Miss Flanders in the mix, Liege, Bastogne, Liege, Bank Tour. What I'd want to say about the year in review, and I've said this before, but when you come back from COVID, and at that point you had, everybody was like, this thing could just fold up tomorrow. We don't know. So let's go full bore and let's see what we can do about getting a win right away. Well, when that's the case, and you come out of COVID, being kind of ready and in shape, you end up seeing every racer was in it from day one. So every race, sometimes you watch some of these races and you're like, there's really nobody to note here. We'll just kind of watch this. No. Except for maybe the Giro. And that had some riders drop out. But besides, every race was like high voltage excitement. You had all the top racers and doing races you probably never expect them to do. And it was fantastic. And it was really fun to watch for that reason. But then you ended up seeing some of the domination. ROglic, for example, just pulling out the wins all season long, start to finish, because he didn't race. He didn't even race before COVID break. Comes back for the Slovenian National Championships, ends up winning the road race, loses the time trial to Pogacar, which is something that we should have thought about later on, which we did, but it was a shorter race as well. And then just slags his way through the Tour, the Vuelta, and a classic in the mix. Okay. So Rider of the Year, I'm going to save that one for last. So let's go for some of these others. How about we do GC Rider of the Year? So here's my picks for that. You have Primož Roglic, Tadej Pogacar, Tao Geoghegan Hart. Those are the three guys that won the Tour. And then I'm throwing Sepp Kuss kind of in the mix there. But maybe we'll share a screen and see if I can add in this little chart here. I don't know. You can even see this. But it's a little breakdown of the riders that did the different races. And so I just wanted to see, kind of where the top 15 here. So you have the Tour de France, Pogacar, Roglic, Port, Landa, Moss as an example. But I'm just going to go with guys that did two different events here. So Roglic wins the Vuelta. He wins the second in the Tour de France. And then he gets sixth in the World Championships. He's one guy with 3 spots along these 4 races. Another one was Guillaume Martin. Guillaume Martin ends up in top 15 here, 11th in the Tour de France. He goes over into the Vuelta, gets 14th. I think he got a stage win there as well. And then he ends up top 13th in the World Championships. The other person with 3 clicks on their belt here was Valverde. He was kind of the surprise to me because I didn't think he really had much of a year. 12th in the Tour. Over in the Vuelta, he was 10th, so top 10 there. And then he ends up getting 8th in the Tour de France. As you can see, there's not many in comparison. Bilbao, he did an impressive 5th place at the Giro. And over in the Tour de France, he was down there at 16th place, but he had a much more strong Giro pulling out. He's got that weird style where he wobbles the front end of his bikes. Fulsang with Worlds and Nibali with Worlds as well, in with the Giro. But you can see the Giro is much different. McNulty getting a USA spot there in the Giro. And, of course, we have Sepp Kuss, 15th place in the Vuelta. In the Tour de France. And where was he at in the Vuelta? 16th in the Vuelta. I think both of those, if he does a little bit of work at all for himself, he's easily top 10 for those going forward. So with that, this is kind of my help of saying, well, look, Roglic, I think, was heads about, gets podium on 2 of the big stage races of the year, the Vuelta and the Tour, and gets a 6th place in Worlds, just after the mental thing of coming out of the Tour, having lost the way he did, to even get on the podium in Worlds was pretty impressive. But I think it also speaks to just kind of how the fitness is there. So I got to go with GC Rider of the Year, Primož Roglic. Classics Rider of the Year. Oh, look, we've got a few breakdowns here. We have who's on the podium for this. We've got Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel, Roglic, and then do we have Julian Alaphilippe? I think Alaphilippe won the Ardennes race. He also won Worlds. He did win a race after losing Lombardia, but that's not strictly a classic, so it's kind of tough. What do you call a classic? Well, Wout, look, you call Strade Bianca a classic as an example. Wout van Aert gets first at Strade Bianca. Milan-San Remo, he wins over Alaphilippe. He gets a second at Flanders to Mathieu van der Poel and a second at Worlds. He has the most points of classics one-day riders of the year. I think it was the biggest step up. He went from like 700 or so last year to like 1,800 this year. So it was an improvement of like 900 points. Matthew Van Der Poel wins at Flanders. He was 6th at Liege Bastogne Liege, 10th at Lombardia, and 13th at Milan-San Marino. ROglic, I throw him in there because he won Liege Bastogne Liege, and then he gets a 6th at Worlds. It was Worlds a classic. I mean, this year you don't have Paris-Roubaix, so I'm just kind of throwing some other additional things in there. Then you have Julian Alaphilippe. So I think it really comes down to Alaphilippe and Wout. But for Alaphilippe's post-up / riding like a meth-addicted junior rider at Liège with the tweaking that he was doing, you might have given it to him, but I'm going to throw it out to Wout. His Strade Bianca win, by the way, 40K out or so. His sprint over Milan at Milan-San Remo, straight sprint, by the way, Alaphilippe, take note to that. Was impressive. His 2nd at Flanders to Wout. And, there was another race, trying to remember which one it was, where he and it was the one that Jakobsen, Pedersen won in the world just after he was no longer world champion. And he and Wout and Matthew Van Der Poel, I think the week before Flanders, they just kind of sucked it up. They were fighting over each other, and they sit up about 1K to go or something weird, and it just was kind of an ugly thing. Anyway, we're going to give that one to Wout with a close second to, remember at Flanders, you had also, and we'll talk about this one-day races though, you had, we'll just wait for that. Domestique of the year, I'm giving the category contestants there to Sepp Kuss, Rohan Dennis, Tom Dumoulin, and there's got to be some other sprint domestiques, but these are just kind of the ones that I don't know if you give anything better than Sepp Kuss, who had a lot of pressure, especially in the Vuelta, coming into the Vuelta after what he had to do. And look, there's a ton of other riders you give props to as well, but his stock went up huge due to his racing and being the last guy to be able to stick with. I mean, how often was it that it was ROglic and Sepp? He had one bad day in the Tour. He had one bad 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers in the Vuelta, which was the very last stage, and that could have been done with tactics, an issue that we've talked about before as to why he wasn't there. But another guy I want to bring up, though, is Rohan Dennis. Shouldn't underplay his performance in the Giro for Tao Gegenhardt. His ability going up and over, what day was that? Second to last or third to last mountain climb there. He goes over the top of the climb, pulls Tao clear with Jai Hindley. They drop Kelderman, they drop Jalomita, and just pulls him up till the bottom section. It's a long flat before the final climb, and then lets Tao do the business there. And then does it again on the second to last day of before they go into the time trial. Amazing work, and probably would not have allowed Tao to win the race without such incredible help. Tom Dumoulin also of sacrificing, his knee was hurt and he dove in hard. I think it was the day that Sepp Kuss had a bad day in the Tour early on, and Tom Dumoulin was kind of the one that drug everything up. Still gets a top 10 in the Tour, and he had a chance for doing much better. But for his effort for ROglic, he did a good job this year as well. Wout Van Aert, sorry. But there's a lot of other guys that I'm sure we missed out there, some sprint leadouts, little things here and there, but I'm going to give it to Sepp just for the pressure that was on him and the ability of what he did. Domestiques of note, though, you kind of have to, first of all, Sepp Kuss, he's one, like I said, Rohan Dennis. I just wanted to throw something out there for Tadej Pogačar in his effort for ROglic at Worlds. He did an amazing job of just emptying himself, trying to flush out the French who had a contingent of about 30, 40 guys in the race at Worlds there for Julian Alaphilippe, which they end up winning. But he took that off with 2 laps to go, really made the race and made them all work so he could try to get ROglic in good position. As it was, ROglic got up there in the break, and he should have done what he could to help Wout, because Wout had done so much for him. So it was a little odd thing you had going there. Biggest disappointment of the year? I put 2 names on the board here. One of them did get a win, and the other just didn't really do much at all. Egan Bernal, probably the biggest disappointment of the year. He was injured, just didn't have it early on in the season. Did fight the EF boys in Colombia, but didn't win there. and then did not have it at the Tour and really flopped his team Ineos. And it was fun to watch them just kind of being decimated. But the other one is Peter Sagan. Peter Sagan, not really looking all that great. I think he had the one win there in the Giro. Finally got his win, and it wasn't super impressive. He was with McNulty, I think, or McNulty tried to catch him at the last bit there for second place, but not really all that great. Overachiever of the year. Do you really say Roglic is an overachiever of the year? I mean, his winning percentage was pretty high. Pretty much, he would have won the Dauphiné if he had stayed in there. He was very close to winning the Tour. I mean, couldn't have done much more of that. Obviously won the Giro, won 5 stages there as well. The Vuelta, I mean. Winning Liege Bastogne Liege, kind of in a way. So I don't know if you give him the overachiever of the year. Maybe the top 5 of the Giro, you slog those in as all overachievers. Yeah, Tao Gegenhardt winning it. Didn't expect that. Former Action Berman guy. Jai Hindley, Australian, I think. Didn't expect that. Wilco Kelderman, that one was probably the most expected, but yet even then, his ability to hold on to third was still pretty good. João Almeida, I mean, who ever thought that was going to be? No one. I mean, when he got in pink early on, you're like, this won't hold, and yet it did. And then Pello Bilbao, even at his top 5 there, impressive. Another one though I might throw in was Enrique Moss. When you look at my little breakdown sheet here, Enrique Moss gets 5th at the Tour. He gets 5th at the Vuelta. I didn't see him in the top there at the Worlds, but for an under 23 guy, hint of things to come. Very impressive. David Gaudu, 2 wins at the Vuelta, little French guy for Groupama FDJ. So maybe you, I don't really know which ones I'd pick. Probably the overachiever would throw it to Tao. I mean, you didn't expect him. Even Almeida, how many days he was there in pink. Underachiever of the year, like I said, we threw that over to Egan Bernal. I think that's a no-brainer for that one. U23 Rider of the Year pretty much comes down for me as Mark Hirschi and Enrique Moss. And Hirschi with some stage wins, top there at the Worlds, getting 3rd place. And 2 narrow misses at the Tour as well, always out on the punch. Had a great, and by the way, news just came out today that he voided it or canceled his contract with DSM, was the new team, which formerly Sunweb. So he is out on the loose looking for a team, or maybe he already has one, or maybe I just read the headlines and saw that he canceled it and didn't see who he had signed with. But between he and Enrique Moss, Moss definitely U23 Rider of the Year for Grand Tours, and Mark Hirschi for his efforts on one-day races and in the Tour, in the Vuelta as well, on the Tour in World as well. Let's talk about the races. The best Grand Tour. You had the Tour de France, Giro, and the Vuelta. Close Tour de France, but the Giro was closer, and then the Vuelta was even closer still. Tour de France, 59 seconds between first and second, determined on second to last day individual time trial. Second place person on that day ends up winning the Tour, the time trial and the Tour. Pretty fascinating race from start to finish. I really thought, there's drama about COVID, there's drama about the racing, and you saw a dominance of Jumbo, you saw a failure of Ineos, and you saw, even EF Education is getting wins. Sunweb doing some fantastic stuff. Giro, that was won by 39 seconds. Final stage time trial winner gets that. Tao Gegenhardt, who's in second place, he ends up winning overall, so he comes from behind. The Vuelta, though, the closest of the 3, 24 seconds, second to last stage, determined the winner. Remember, it was cut down to 18 stages, shortened from 21. First place holds the win this time. Closest Grand Tour of the year. Top 5, all within 3 minutes and 36 seconds. Some highlights of these: Jumbo domination of the Tour until they had no ability to help at all for Roglic. Even his helmet seemed to be a little lacking. Ineos flop in the Tour de France. Ineos looked bad early in the Giro. You're looking like things aren't going to go well. The rebound and saving grace by Ineos in the Giro, though. 8 stage wins. You had Carapaz comes good in the Vuelta and narrowly misses the win overall. Roglic loses with heartbreak individual time trial. Raging on by Pogacar up the Planche de Belfi. And Vuelta gives us EF Education. They win 3 stages, 3rd overall with Hugh Carthy. And I will say the only team to win a stage in the Tour, a stage in the Giro, and a stage in the Vuelta. Best one-day race. For me, it comes down to Milan-San Remo, Strada, Liège, Lombardia, and Flanders. Strada, Wout wins that from like 40K out. Strong, remember, it was warm weather, and it was just, he put on a show. It was super hot day, which you don't. But then he goes out and follows that up with his, follows Julian Alaphilippe, comes back into the final stretch there in the promenade and does a win over him. Very impressive on Milan-San Remo. We had Lombardia. There was an amazing group. They merged with like 50K out. There were 3 Trek riders. There was, I think, 2 Astana riders. There's 1 Jumbo, Bennett, and 1 Deceuninck Quickstep, Evenepoel. Crazy crash on the downhill where Evenepoel tries to follow Nibali, crashes, goes over the bridge. Crazy to see. And then there's, remember, the bottle in his back pocket thing? Well, then up the road, you dispense of all 3 Trek riders. It comes down to Fulsang, Bennett, and Vlasov. Vlasov gets put out by Bennett. Bennett can't hold on, and then you have Fulsang with the win. Very impressive. Lombardia was a great race to watch. Cue that up for like the last 60K, and you've got a great barn burner in store for you. Liege Bastogne Liege, hey, that's where Julian Alaphilippe rides like he's, like I said, a junior rider on meth, tweaked out, twitching here and there, looking back and forth, posts up early. He's got all kinds of problems, and ROglic gets the win. Not as impressive of the win other than the fact that the mental capacity to hang on, to keep sprinting, and to be in the mix there over Alaphilippe. Then you had Flanders, Mathieu van der Poel, Wout, and Julian emerge. Once again, Julian takes a line like a hopped-up junior racer, plows into the back of a motorbike, lays on the ground with a broken wrist, but he lays on the ground while everyone tries to go around him like a spoiled baby. Not impressed with that, and Mathieu van der Poel ends up winning. I think for me, the best of those races, Liege Bastogne Liege was awesome to watch. It's a classic. It comes down. I like to see, and look, I think Alaphilippe put his foot in it and ended up losing that race. The other riders, ROglic ends up getting the win, but Alaphilippe really, shanked a shot on the last hole as a golf example, rather than, ROglic holing out from 200 yards or something like that. So maybe the best race though was Lombardia. You had crazy stuff there. You had some of the best climbing, descending. You had the big wreck that changed things for Evenepoel for the year. You had Fulsang with a great win. You had the Russian Vlasov. You had the Australian Bennett, and some Italians in the mix. So that one maybe is my race, one day race of the year. Teams. Well, and look, it's hard to GC team of the year. You're looking at probably Jumbo, get second in the Tour, first in the Vuelta. And with that, they get a bunch of stage wins. They dominate in look, but for the last time trial, what can the team do at that point for ROglic? They did everything right. They had a great season. So 3 wins in Tour de France. COVID took them out for the Giro, 5 stage wins in the Vuelta, first in GC, Sepp 16th, and getting 15th in the Tour. But then you had Ineos, wins in the Tour de France with Kwiatkowski, second with Carapaz there. They get the GC in the Giro, wins, and they get second in the Vuelta with Carapaz. So Carapaz, Tao, and Rowan Dennis. 8 stage wins and first on GC in the Giro. Ghana with 4, Tao with 3, and Narvaez with 1. Vuelta, no wins, 3 podiums for stages, and Carapaz on second place. But then you're throwing in 2 other teams that I really want to talk about here. EF Education first, 5 GC wins for the Grand Tours. I think they had 18 wins for the season. All different riders win in all 3 Grand Tours, only team to do that. 3 in the Vuelta, 2 in the Giro, 1 in the Tour de France. They third in the Vuelta GC overall. Fantastic for them. But save for their duck jerseys in the Giro and the bike, they had a pretty good season. Sunweb, Hirschi, close calls in the Tour, 3 stage wins, all with impressive strategy. And then you probably look at Classics Team of the Year. It's your one-day stuff. I'm going to give that to Deceuninck Quickstep just simply for their amount of victories. Now, I think they had 40 some victories this year, when typically they've only been having somewhere around close to 100. So it's not quite as snappy as you would expect. Let's see if we can share this here. These are some stats, year-end stuff that I thought was interesting. Some of it's not that great. Luis Leon Sanchez has done 182,508 vertical meters in 2020. Good for him. Some of these just don't have names. It just has like a country next to him. Nation with the highest relative point increase compared to last year. Slovenia, Great Britain, Australia. Races with most recorded attacks in live stats. European Continental Championships. Tour de France, second, third there. Don't really care about that. Let's see if there was some more exciting. 5 fastest World Tour riders this season, 43.5 kilometers an hour. Don't know. It doesn't say what rider, it just gives a flag. But an American was third place there. Victory ranking this season. So there you go. 39 wins, which are Duke Quona, UAE 33, Jumbo 23, Bora 21, Groupama, FDJ 20, Ineos Grenadiers 19, EF 7th place there, 17 wins. Movistar down there at 2. Not good. Not so good for them. Fastest race of the year was the Tour Sklerland Stage 3, 52K an hour. Interesting. Wow, here's the one we were talking about before. He scored 1807 points this season compared to 873 last season, improving 947 points. Wow, that's very impressive on a one-day race. World Tour race with the youngest average Bink Bank Tour. I think that's with Matthew Van Der Poel ended up winning that. World Tour riders with the least race days this season. Americans coming in second place. Good job. USA. We did get Americans in the top, 16 there for all 3 Grand Tours. So that's not so bad to see. Let's keep going through here. Biggest surprise. How about the biggest overachiever team of the year? That might be Sunweb. Biggest underachiever team of the year. I would have said Ineos, but for their kind of comeback on the 2 Grand Tours there. Movistar. I mean, you just saw it there. 2 wins the season. Ugh. Marc Soler is going to be their guy. Good luck. Biggest surprise, see the Giro results. Watered down field, perhaps? I don't know. Hugh Carthy in the Vuelta. Pogacar in stage 20, without a doubt, is probably the winner in that. Will Barta's narrow loss of 1 second to Roglic in the Vuelta stage 13 individual time trial. That was a great effort. Big surprise, big sadness there for Will, but good in the overall. Best tactical wins. Probably give that to Team Sunweb in the Tour. If you watch their wins that they ended up getting in the Tour de France, I think they had 3 of them there. Every one of them had some sort of tactical advantage where they were kicking after someone else was attacking, and they were just doing it at the right times. And you saw that, and you're just like, these young guns, and they're doing it right. And it was impressive to watch. And other teams weren't quite able to do the same thing. Ineos in the last few stages of the Giro, they had, the last few stages of the Giro with Rohan Dennis and how they were doing it from 2 climbs out or 2 times up the climb to go. The Gavia, I don't know if that was the one that they had, but it was amazing to see kind of their approach. And I love the long range attack with the 2 guys, Rohan Dennis and Tao Gegenhardt. Sunweb did have some questionable tactics in the Giro in those same exact stages. Kelderman has come out and said, hey, Jai Hindley should have stayed with me. What could have happened if I had a support rider? True, but Hindley was doing what he was told. Most impactful event of the year, Chloe Dagert's crash. That was very impactful. She did get it on a new team. Her tweets and Quinn Simmons' tweets, maybe most impactful events for them. The crash in Poland, though, that one probably has the most wide-ranging because you saw penalties coming out of there. You saw, animosity. You saw criminal projections by Lefevre, saying that this should be a criminal act. You saw changes in kind of how the barriers and supports are going to be going forward from there. The crash in Lombardia with Evenepoel, you're going to see maybe, the bottles in the back pocket. No, that's not right. That was a big deal for him as a young rider. Who knows what he would have done. Would have been awesome to see him at the Tour, Giro, or Vuelta this year, and kind of with some of those other young riders and see how that went. And he didn't get his chance. So that was obviously rider protests this year. They had no real power, I think. They tried to unionize themselves at the Tour, which was kind of Tony Martin's thing. I mean, it can be another Domestique of the year there. That was Mason Marlowe's pick for Domestique of the year. Trying to slow everyone down. Then they had Chris Froome coming out at the Vuelta after Roglic was given the 3-second time gap. And I don't remember which stage that was when he ended up taking the red jersey back from Carapaz. And Froome comes out and complains. If you ever see the video, and I did a little breakdown of that, of Jumbo afterwards, that stage, Roglic is like, no one talked to me about this. We're all in agreement. No one told me about it. So the rider protest. They're trying to get more power. They're not really doing it. Biggest tactical blunder, as we called it, the movie star award. Maybe it's Julian Philippe's flub at Liege Bastogne Liege. Worried about the other riders taking odd route and cutting them off, and then posting up early. He posts up early, the week or so after that as well, and he barely wins. He almost got nipped at the line again. How about stage 17 of the Vuelta? That might be the one to take a look at. Jumbo. They didn't really have enough support for Roglic coming into that last climb, and Sepp was done with like 5 or 6K to go. Chris Horner's done a breakdown of that where he says that's all their tactics for what they did early on and not having enough guys for the last portion. Ineos not attacking early on stage 17. That might have been another tactical blunder. EF allowing Mike Woods up the road earlier, I think it was a day or so before, where he's not really then there to help Carthy. And maybe if you have him attacking early, you dump everyone out. Maybe you dump Roglic out earlier. You give Carthy and everyone a chance. And anything movie star is involved in is a tactical blunder. So with all this said, who is your rider of the year? Well, for me, it's got to be Primož Roglic. And I say that for a few reasons. One, winning and just nipping at the time bonuses for the Vuelta and the Tour. But for that time trial against Pogačar in the Tour, he would have won the Tour. And look, that was a devastating way to lose. And then he comes back and wins Liège. Even though it's kind of handed to him, he still had to sprint, throw the bike, and he's coming on to Alaphilippe. Either way, let's say he gets second place there. You're saying, how? Second place at Liège after the Tour breakdown. 6th place in the World Championships. But then he ends up going to the Vuelta after such a disappointing route in the Tour de France, stage 20 up the Planche Belfi. And he comes out to the Vuelta. He instantly starts hitting on all cylinders, getting the red jersey, getting time bonuses. He and Sepp Kuss doing their thing, and all the way up to stage 17, barely able to hang on, fist pump over the line, and rolls into the last stage of the stage 18 of the Vuelta as the winner. So he ends up winning a Grand Tour. He ends up getting second one. He ends up top 6 in the Worlds. He ends up winning a classic of Liege Bastogne Liège, wins his national championships, wins a bunch of stage races going into that. Impressive year for the guy, and couldn't be more happy for him. And mostly because Sepp Kuss rides for his team, and I'm pretty excited about that. That's what we had, 2020. Crazy year. I think we recapped a bunch there. Hope you stayed with us on all of that. People, this was 1 year to hopefully forget, and hopefully a year that we can replicate as far as racing goes, but not as far as COVID goes. I don't know what we're going to do about racing in the States, if that's even a thing. It will be pretty interesting. I'd love to start getting back to some interviews and talking to some people. I see Legion of LA, they have Ryan, what's her name? Kelly Ryan? Or maybe that's his sister. One of the two that I spoke with at the Tour of California. It's going to be kind of exciting. Thanks for joining us, everybody. 216 episodes in the book. Between Two Wheels podcast. We're going to try to do some interviews. I may have to give up my day job for that. But either way, take care.